Okay, welcome to the Patriots of Pleasure Act. I want to start by apologizing to you. I know that there's a better way. I have this all on disc. I sent it to GW in the form of paper, an actual written transcript, which cost a fortune to print, 634 pages. So I know there's a better way. I could have it run from the computer through an HDMI cable to a big screen like they do at the university, and it would look really nice. But I don't have the means, and I've got to get this done for you. So, here we are at the Patriots of Pleasures Act. I'm doing this New Year's Eve, traffic flying by and everything else, full moon and eclipse. Let's do it. This is the table of contents. Acceptance. We accept the war declared by pedophiles. Absolutely. We didn't declare the war, they started it. We were little kids, they were coming after us. When our parents were little kids, they were coming after them, and so on down the line. And they prey on our kids, they'll prey on our grandkids and great-grandkids until we stop them. So we're going to declare war on them. Oh yeah. Now, we're going to declare war in the incarceration fronts, 2 in the mental health credibility fronts, because the only thing protecting these people right now is that they've been declared to have a mental illness, which of course is all being charged back to the taxpayers one way or the other, be it through private insurance providers or Medicare or Medicaid. Mental health incompetence or economic treason. Think about that. If they went around, they talk the talk, but you know as well as I do, those pedophiles keep reoffending despite all their mental health treatment. For the mental health industry to admit that they have been incompetent in handling this problem, well, that would cost them money, wouldn't it, as well as credibility. And for them to deny it, to me, is economic treason, especially considering how much we're spending on it. Public access fronts, we're going to touch on this for a moment. We're going to touch on juveniles, and we're going to touch on prostitution itself. Before we actually go to part 2, prostitution is hereby regulated as follows. And it's starting off with the Patriots of Pleasures rule. I was just rereading this to get my head really around it. Basically, the idea is nations, the idea is for all the nations to combine as one, to get on the same page. If nations don't want to follow our Patriots of Pleasures rule with respect towards prostitution, then they can't qualify for any of the other acts of providence. That means the gifts of God. That means the ministry of marijuana. We're going to use the other acts to leverage in the prostitution area, to leverage cooperation with other nations. And the intent, of course, is to stop child slavery throughout the world, child prostitution throughout the world. So right now what will happen is, let's say, for example, Washington State's the only one that enacts it. Then all the pedophiles, of course, will run to Oregon, Idaho, and beyond. But as the other states go, the borders, boom, 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 there's less places to run and hide for these pedophiles. Eventually, as we get the globe on the same page, then there's nowhere for them to hide. And that's the idea. We want their asses. Part 2 will be the players. And there's a list of players. There's a list of players. We'll get into it. Then there's 3. Isolating social and economic impacts. I've actually used Chicago. Chicago was the example I used. Their work and studies in this area were magnificent. I congratulate the city and all those involved. Basic protocols. This is how, and it's long and drawn out. The idea is for the board members to actually create this stuff, and it was just an outline. Make sure the prostitutes, those licensed to take care of business, are protected, as well as the tricks are protected. Now, let's go to fees real quick. Lots of fees. Let's face it. The whole reason we're doing this is to make money. To make money for all the people, trickle up economics. The communities are served. The communities with the highest impacts will naturally be served more because there's more money trickling up from their communities. And it goes all the way to the federal level, which we'll get into in a minute. Isolating annual American economic benefits. This is just for the American. We're trying to get the numbers straight, mostly based on the Chicago formula, because we don't get straight answers from the government. There are no straight answers. It's like saying that they won 40% of the drug war. Where was the 100%? What did you base that upon? So we're going to try to find some numbers and show you what, how I came up with the bottom numbers. Are you ready to finally make some money? Seriously, the POPA is the nut of them all. This is the big money. Marijuana, like they were joking one time, the DEA guy said it was candy dope, it was kitty dope. This is the big money. I personally am not into dealing in flesh. I'm really not into it. I'm one of these guys, white lace and promises, Karen Carpenter kind of guys. I like to fall in love. I'm not a slut anymore. I was a slut as a teenager when I couldn't control it so much. But there's people out there that are lonely. They want to make a booty call. They just want a companion for the evening. Maybe they are horny and they actually do need to get laid. Let's face it. Clinton was a fun president. He was a good president. To hassle him about his women was a mess. It was wrong. They did the same thing about Kennedy, and they still do. Some still say Martin Luther King. You know what? Get laid. Go lay yourself. The reality is that Jacob had 4 wives. Moses' mom was his great aunt. Moses chose monogamy. Jacob did not. Most of the biblical characters, you go through it, they had massive wives. Talk about traditional values. Republicans, you can learn from that.